Hello and welcome back everyone. In today's video, I am happy to share with you all three key principal ideas that will help you get a dominating position against any average or a beginner level player and that will help you think like the elite players. So, without wasting time, let's get started. I'll make few moves on the board so that we get an idea of what to play and where to play. Also, these are the universal rules. These are the principles that will help you play in any position. So we'll start with d4, d5, c4. He plays his pawn to e6, the queen's gambit. And now, after all the normal developing moves, this is the time here we can think. Consider here you are playing as white. What are the normal looking moves that we see is we can either play the bishop to f4, bishop to g5 is an idea. You want to develop this bishop. So you can maybe play a pawn to g3 and develop the bishop from this side. If you want to place the bishop on this diagonal, then you can push the pawn to e3. And these are all the candidate moves here. Also, few of you might think of capturing on the c5 square. Rule number one, the key principle number one says that to take is a mistake. Now, why is that a mistake? So, for example, if you take d takes on c5, then he is happy to capture it back with the bishop. What you have done for your opponent is the position is the same. Only difference is he has got a free move to develop his bishop on the c5 square. So when you capture, you are giving your opponent an extra tempo to develop his piece. And you are the pawn that you have captured is now out of the board. So you don't have enough moves there, right? Same is applicable for him. Let's say if he wants to capture over here after any normal move, if he captures here on the d4 square, then what has changed in the position is the knight on the f3 is now centrally placed on the d4 square and is dominating the board, right? So first, the one who captures first is doing a mistake. To take is a mistake. Remember this rule number one. Now, second rule, what I want to share here with you is to not just move around the pieces. Whenever you move, try to give an attack. Okay, so you always try to find the move. That is normally how the grandmasters think. That is how the elite players think. That is their mindset. If they want to develop a piece, they usually want to develop it with an attack. Here, if you want to develop piece, you can go with the bishop to f4. But how the elite players think is the most natural and the best move here. So the bishop gives an attack to the knight on the g5 square, also pins it, and your next idea can be to capture this, to put some pressure on the d5 square. So that is how you should think. That was the rule number two. Don't just move around. In fact, try to attack your opponent, create some problem for your opponent. So now here, as most of you would want to capture on the c5 square, if you haven't seen this video, you would do that. And after the bishop recaptures it, I will quickly flip the board so that now we can think here as black. A normal looking move for white here is to play the bishop to g5, pinning a knight to this queen. Also, they want to take advantage that they can capture the pawn on the d5 square with any of the piece, let's say with the queen or with the knight. Now, I want you to think over here as black. See what best can you do. So normally what players think is since the pawn on d5 is in danger, they would want to defend it, right? They'll play their bishop to e6 trying to defend the pawn on d5 square. But you know what? Offense is the best defense. Attack is the best defense, right? Now, your pawn is in danger. Instead of defending it, doing the passive moves, what you try to do is see how you can create the problem for your opponent. How can you give an attack? Here, there are multiple ways of how you can do it. The best one I feel here is to play the pawn to d4 and give an attack to the knight. The knight will have to defend himself. The knight will go on the e4 square. That is the best square possible for the knight to defend himself. And now you might come with various ideas like you can play the bishop to b4 looking for the forcing moves, cct, check capture threat. So bishop b4 is a check. You can also think of queen a5 check. But if you have if you have understood the last two principles, then you're definitely not going to go back with this bishop on the e7 square, trying to defend this knight and save the bishop as well. No, don't play passive. Attack, right? Here, the best idea is to play the bishop to b4. And then, if he blocks it with the knight, then you can capture the knight and you're doing good. Okay, so here is the third principle for you. Third principle is calculate. Think, whenever there is a tension in the position or tension in between the pieces, you should calculate. You should take a moment to think. On every move, we cannot think, especially when you're playing blitz or bullet, right? You cannot think for every single move. But when there is tension between the pieces, you should always try to think. Now here, instead of going for the forcing move, bishop b4 check, what you can actually do is capture the knight on the e4 square, giving away the queen. Now, if you would have calculated it further, and if the bishop captures on the d8 square, then you play bishop b4 and give a check. The king can't move. If he blocks it with the queen, you're going to capture the queen. If he blocks it with the knight, you're still going to capture the knight and give a check. Taking the advantage that the king can't move, he will have to capture it back with the queen now. And then look at this position. Now you are one piece up. You are having two minor pieces, for him only having one. So those were three key principles for you. First one is to take is a mistake. So whenever there is a tension, you don't capture the pieces that will give an extra tempo to your opponent. Second is don't just move around. Create problems for your opponent. And how can you do that? By giving an attack. Principle number 3 says that calculate. Think. Whenever there is a tension between the pieces, take your time, think, calculate, and only then make a move. I hope these three key principles will help you win more games and dominate the position against any beginner. For more such videos, please stay tuned to our channel, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share with your friends and family. Thank you.